8. Nicholas Forman. We've all experienced jealousy at some point in our lives. Whether it was seeing someone with a better job, cooler car, more money, or prettier face, it's a universal experience to have longed for something else. But most of us don't take any action over these feelings. They come and go, and we move on with life. Not everyone is capable of forgetting, though. Some become so enraged over jealousy that they do the unthinkable. Just like a young man named Nicholas Forman. 23-year-old Nicholas and his girlfriend Sabrina Harouni were in an Uber ride when they got into a heated argument. At some point during the drive, Sabrina had received a text. Nicholas was enraged over the message, and his jealousy soon turned to violence. By the time they reached his house, he was abusing Sabrina both verbally and physically. The next morning, Nicholas brought her to the hospital, covered in bruises and obvious signs of distress. What he didn't know was that Sabrina was already dead. It's even more shocking to find out Nick put Sabrina's body in yet another Uber on the way to the hospital. Who knows what that driver was thinking as a random man dragged a corpse into their back seat. Sabrina's family was devastated by the news of her murder. Her sister is quoted saying, "An evil devil person hurt my sister, took her life from us, did not value her." The family didn't even know of Nick's existence until they found out their precious daughter and sister was dead. It takes a special sick kind of person to hurt someone you supposedly love. But then again, if Nick was willing to kill Sabrina over something as fleeting as jealousy, did he really love her in the first place? 7. Girlfriend stabs boyfriend with a barbecue skewer. There's a common stereotype that women can get intensely jealous, and while it's entirely untrue for most, some women can't help but fit the bill. Svetlana Boyarinova was 27 years old when she stabbed her lover, Evgeny Solyanik, in the chest with a massive barbecue skewer during a fight. It took place during a camping trip the couple was on with a few of Evgeny's closest friends. The friends claim Svetlana had always been obsessive and jealous, always accusing Evgeny of cheating on her with other women. They said Evgeny never actually cheated, and he just couldn't ever get rid of his girlfriend despite the constant harassment. He told them, "It's as if she uses black magic to keep us together." The fight at the campsite was over, you guessed it, cheating. After Svetlana stabbed her boyfriend, she immediately seemed to regret her action and pulled the 2-foot, 6-meter skewer out of him, then rushed Evgeny to the hospital. The doctors there looked him over and figured he was fine, so the heated lovers and Evgeny's friends all went back to camping as if nothing was wrong, which seems strange, right? If someone stabbed us, we'd run for the hills. But to each their own. The morning after, Evgeny wasn't feeling well, so they brought him back to see the doctors. Once back in medical care, they determined his heart and lungs had actually been damaged. Just a few short hours later, Evgeny passed away. Meanwhile, his jealous girlfriend was taken into custody and sent to prison for killing him. 6. Boyfriend kills Thai lover. As much as we hate to admit it, sex trafficking and prostitution is rampant all over the world, especially in the Thai city of Pattaya, where our next story takes place. Napathorn Kanakosimsophan was a young woman who made a living entertaining men and foreigners in return for favors and money. She was actually doing fairly well for herself considering the business she was in. One of her many suitors sent her a 700-pound, $960 monthly allowance. That, combined with the other cash she made, allowed her to get a boob job, designer items, a new car, and other plastic surgeries. She was fairly well known in the red light district community. She had the nickname Nurse from many of her admirers, likely because she was able to nurse men back to health with her charm and seduction. Everything was going well until one of the nurse's boyfriends found out about his competition. His name was Wallop Waihongtong, and he had been dating Napathorn for over a year when he discovered her nightlife. After confronting her over the other men, Wallop shot his lover in the head 6 times while she sat in her car. In the police investigation, they found that Wallop contacted Napathorn, saying that he would stop talking to her if she agreed to meet up with him. Little did she know it'd be her last meeting with a man. Wallop was later labeled as the killer when his car was filmed near the scene of the crime by CCTV camera footage. What would you do if you found out your partner was seeing other people? Hopefully nothing as extreme as what we've seen so far, but tell us your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed this video so far, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to see future videos. 5. Poppy Dave Joe Atkinson. When you're in a relationship, the last thing you'd want is your significant other to get hurt. But once you break up, things start to change. Those deep feelings of love can quickly turn into even greater anger or sadness. And in the case of Joe Atkinson, jealousy. Joe had just recently broken up with his girlfriend, Poppy Devi Waterhouse, but he still shared an apartment with her. Poppy had quickly moved on from Joe, finding another man to love soon after the separation. Perhaps Joe was upset over this fact. How could she move on already when he was still hurt? Or maybe it was another reason altogether. Poppy had often been described as a genius in her life. She graduated with a degree in math and worked for a well-known mathematician and astronomer named William Hill. She was gifted, that's for sure, and maybe Joe didn't like that. She was happy in a new relationship with a great job and a bright future ahead of her, and Joe had nothing. One night at the apartment, the 2 young adults got into an argument. During the fight, Joe grabbed a knife from the kitchen and brutally stabbed his ex. Forensic determined that Poppy had been stabbed over 70 times, and in total she had more than 100 injuries on her body. Joe made an attempt to clean up the crime scene and make it look like he had no fault in her death, but justice finds a way, and the cops were much smarter than he was. 4. William Balfour. Many of us have heard of the famous singer and actress Jennifer Hudson, whose fame skyrocketed after winning one of the early seasons of American Idol. But a lot of people haven't heard of Hudson's former brother-in-law, William Balfour. In case you didn't know, William is a convicted killer who took the lives of 3 innocent people. He was once married to Jennifer Hudson's sister, Julia Hudson. Julia had just finished celebrating her birthday at her family's home, and the day after was confronted by her husband. He was furious at her and in a heated rage. He claimed that she was cheating on him with another man. Why, you might ask? Because he saw a birthday present in the house and for some reason believed it was from a lover. She denied his accusations and left the house. But Will was still angry. He left the building for a brief moment, then returned to take out his frustrations. Inside the home, he shot cold blank his wife's mother while she was sitting in the living room. Will then went on to find his brother-in-law sleeping peacefully, only to kill him too. His stepson was also in the house, obviously scared at this point. Balfour coaxed the 7-year-old child into his in-laws' car. It's believed that moments later he shot his own stepson with a bullet to the head. After wrapping the kid's body in a shower curtain, Will left the body sitting in the car for days until it was discovered. After a long court prosecution, William was given 3 life sentences, 1 for each of his victims. Even if he does get jealous in prison, there's no more hope left for Will. And honestly, he deserves it. 3. Burnt alive. 2 young girls were given long prison sentences for the murder of an 18-year-old named Boitumelo Diamini. According to reports from the police, Cynthia Mosupi and Sharon Twala became jealous of Diamini's relationship and close connection with a boy. But instead of bad-mouthing or name-calling like most petty disagreements, these 2 went with the extreme option, Fueled by jealous rage, the pair kidnapped Diamini from the Aletsa Secondary School. The interaction was recorded on one of the school's security cameras. In the video, you can see the two women approach a frightened Diamini who begs them to let her go, saying she'll stay away from the man. But her pleas were in vain. Mosupi poured gasoline all over Diamini's body. They then took their victim to a nearby cemetery where they dragged her out of a car and beat her up. In court records, they also claimed that they tried to tie the young girl to a tree but failed. Later on, Diamini was set on fire and burned alive. It's devastating to think what Diamini's last scared thoughts were and how much pain they put her through all over some guy. With further investigation, authorities determined Mosupi and Twala were under the effects of alcohol and drugs when the crime was committed. If they were sober and did this, they'd be even bigger monsters. 2. Shoes. Some people will do whatever it takes to look good, even if it means taking a life. Tiana Brown was only 15 years old when she stabbed and killed Shannon Braithwaite. Autopsy reports showed that Shannon was cut 49 times. So what motive did Tiana have for such a gruesome act? She wanted Shannon's shoes. Well, to be fair, it was just a bit more complicated than that. While the shoes were one of the motivating factors, Tiana was jealous of Shannon's life in general. It seemed like the girl had everything she didn't. While we in no way want to humanize a murderer, Tiana did have a rough life. She had been sexually abused and raped at an early age, which led her to eventually run away from home. Shannon was actually her cousin, and her aunt had just welcomed Tiana into her home only to be left with a dead daughter. In a psych evaluation after Brown's arrest, they uncovered a shocking truth Tiana had found out before the murder. Her mother was also raped by her grandmother's boyfriend. This indecent act is what led to her birth. So, from the beginning, it seems the world has had it out for Tiana. But even with a tough start, Shannon and her mother loved her and treated her with kindness. After the murder, Tiana took the sneakers off of Shannon's dead body and took some other things from her cousin's room. She then called 911 and told them a fake story about an intruder coming in and overpowering Shannon. And after all of this, after literally killing one of the only people in her life to be truly kind to her, Tiana went out to party with friends. Even with such a horrible background, it's hard to feel sorry for someone who's made such heartless, jealous decisions. 1. Sisters. As we've seen in previous listings, family relationships can sometimes get complicated, even between two sisters. From the outside looking in, Elizaveta Dubravina and her sister Stefania looked super close. But something shifted in their fondness of one another. For years, Elizaveta was jealous of her younger sibling's beauty. She tried her best to look like her, copying her hair and even as closely as following a similar makeup routine. But it was never enough. Stefania just had something she didn't. After turning 17, Stefania started getting offered modeling jobs, which earned her some extra money as well as attention from attractive men. With this newfound success, Elizaveta's jealousy was worse than ever before. One night, the two of them were alone in Stefania's boyfriend's apartment. Elizaveta had taken some drugs earlier in the day and she finally snapped. An argument broke out and she stabbed Stefania hundreds of times all over her body. Eliza also gouged out the young girl's eyes and tried to cut off her ears too. Once she had relieved some of her built-up rage and came to her senses, she tried to flee the scene of the crime, leaving Stefania alive on the floor, bleeding out slowly. The last thing the poor girl saw was her sister, one she thought loved her dearly, committing the ultimate betrayal. When the boyfriend got home, he walked into a nightmare. Luckily, he was just in time. As Eliza was about to make her escape, he caught her. He called the police, who came to the apartment and put Eliza under arrest. Later on in court, video footage shows Eliza stone-faced in court, as if she felt no guilt for what she'd done to her own sister. Her sentence was a measly 13 years for a horrific crime that she'll have to live with forever. Thanks for watching. That's all for today. Which of these stories shocked you? When have you ever felt jealous of someone else? Tell us down below in the comments. We'd love to hear from you all. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos like this. See you next time. Bye.